Have you ever noticed how when it seems like you have the most stuff to do, the fewest number of things go to plan? That's kind of how things have been going for me recently. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. So, I've had a substantial setback. That's what I'm gonna call it. So I've been plugging away on this white truck. I got it completely back together, cock blocked and ready to rock, so to speak. I was ready to start driving it, and the transmission doesn't work. Now, when I say the transmission doesn't work, I mean the truck won't move. It won't go forward, it won't go backward. However, I can feel the transmission engage into reverse. I can feel it engage into first gear. If I shift it manually, I can get it to engage in first gear, second gear, and reverse. So I had to go through and do diagnostics. I had to figure out what the problem is. Did I miss something? Is something messed up? Is it electrical? Is it hydraulic? Is it mechanical? Where is the problem here? So I start with my most likely suspects, right? I check the entire wire harness from the PCM to the transmission connector. No shorts, no opens, everything as far as I can test with my multimeter through that harness is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So I check the internal harness. Maybe I got a dud replacement internal harness. So I start at the transmission connector. I test the resistance between solenoid A, the resistance of solenoid B, the resistance across the torque converter clutch solenoid, the resistance across the pressure control solenoid, all within spec, right where they should be. So that's not my problem. I pop a line off of the transmission cooler, start it up, make sure I have good flow. I've got outstanding flow at the transmission cooler, plenty of fluid coming through. I remove the range selector switch off the side of the transmission, shift the transmission manually, which by default, with no electronics at all, park, reverse, and second gear should work in a 4L80E if you manually select that range with the shifter on the column. Same symptom. I hear it go into gear. I feel the little like gunk of that gear engaging, but I get no movement. So the only thing I have left to think of, or the only thing left that I can think of is pressure. Do I have enough pressure in the transmission? So I ordered a set of pressure test gauges. Got those here. Test the line pressure on the transmission. Beautiful line pressure, right where it should be. About 90 PSI at idle and park. Steps up to about 110 in reverse. Steps up to back down to 90 in neutral. Back up to about 120 in drive. Line pressure isn't the problem either. Now, I'm thinking through the series of events that go into making a vehicle move, right? The engine is running. I can feel the transmission engage into gear. I know that the clutch packs, the bands, everything in the transmission is working like it should because I air checked all of them when I put the transmission back together. Everything's doing what it should be inside the transmission hydraulically. The only X factor I have is the torque converter. Now it's a brand new remanufactured torque converter. I ordered it from Amazon, but they sell this torque converter on eBay. You can order it directly from the manufacturer. There are lots of places to buy this torque converter from. It had a 4.5-star average review on Amazon. eBay, it had a 2.5-star review. And a couple of the eBay reviews said that it was a dud right out of the box. Didn't work. I think I got one of the duds right out of the box, guys. I can't think of anything else that I can diagnose or troubleshoot without pulling this transmission back out of the truck, which I really, really don't want to do. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do it. But I don't think I have any other choice. So I'm gonna snag the transmission out of this thing, and hopefully my new torque converter, I decided to go ahead and go with a name brand that has an outstanding reputation, that I am about 99% sure I will not get a dud from, and pony up. I mean, it's 3 times the cost of the converter that I put in here, but I'm not pulling the transmission out of this thing again. And hopefully it'll be here tomorrow. So I'm gonna snag the transmission out of this the hard way, and hopefully be able to get this thing. Today's Wednesday, it's the day before Thanksgiving. Hopefully I'll be able to get this thing put back together by the end of Thanksgiving weekend and actually move it. Because what I really want to do is get this engine and transmission put into the ass blazer so I can start driving that thing with this hot rod engine and go have some fun. Whew. All right, everybody. Well, I've got the transmission down. You can see here's our defective torque converter, TTC Performance Torque Converters. I don't think I'll be ordering anything else from them. I didn't notice it when I plugged this thing in here, but they do say they're remanufactured torque converters. But I notice here now, when I look at it, here's the original GM sticker. Still on there, just painted over. I said this in a video when I was working on Glenn's car. But man, if you're going to rebuild or remanufacture something and you can't be troubled to peel the old stickers off, man, I just don't have a lot of confidence in your rebuild, if I'm being honest with you. And I think this is a good example, just like Glenn's transmission was. Whoever did that work couldn't be troubled to peel the stickers off. And obviously, that resulted in a torque converter that doesn't work. And in Glenn's case, a transmission that didn't last. So, I'm going to leave it here for today. Yeah, hopefully my new torque converter will be here tomorrow. I'll get it swapped in here under the truck. I mean, it would be a lot easier if I roll the transmission out from under the truck, but the way I'm working under here, that's going to require a lot of setup and then take down and set up again. And I'm one guy working on my back, which makes it extremely difficult to do that under here. So I'm just going to try to swap the torque converters with the transmission still on the jack, and then I should be able to just jack it back up, bolt it back to the back of the engine, and then get it put back together and finally drive this thing. All right, team, it's a couple days later. My new torque converter came. I got excited and got ahead of myself and forgot to do an update until this point. But I'm making progress, and I'm hoping I'll be able to move this truck by the end of my time out here today. So I've got the new torque converter all installed, transmission back up where it goes, transfer case hung on the back, and basically I just need to get the last couple electrical connections hooked up and then get the transmission cross member and drive shafts back in, and then I should be able to test it, and the truck should move now. I'm 99% sure the converter was the problem, so this should get us all sorted out. In case you're wondering, it's a TCI torque converter. It's a 2200 to 2400 RPM stall, and this one's got their marketing says it has a heavier duty torque converter clutch in it. It's intended for towing, so I think it's going to be a good fit for this truck as it is. And if I decide to do any upgrades later on, I'll have a little bit of extra stall in the converter to help out if I upgrade the cam or anything like that. So I'm gonna finish getting this thing installed, start the truck up, get the transmission fluid back up to full where it should be. I'm sure I lost a little bit in the old converter, and then hopefully this thing will move and I'll be able to get this project out of the way and get the ass blazer over here and start getting the drivetrain swapped in that thing before snow starts to fall. All right, everybody. Well, the nice thing about that I just put this drivetrain together is it came apart and went back together again really easily. So I've got everything back together underneath. Electrical's all hooked up, plumbing all hooked up, everything's good to go. Got the battery hooked back up, dipstick in place. It's reading just a smidge low on the dipstick. That's not, I expected that. So I'm gonna start it up, see if the wheels move with it up on jack stands. And assuming they do, because they should, then I'll sit it on the ground and see if this thing finally moves under its own power like it should. Well, the new torque converter is in, it's all together, it's filled up with fluid. I have good line pressure. I have good flow at the cooler. And the wheels still will not move. Which means the only other place there could be a problem is inside the transmission, which means I must have made a mistake somewhere inside of this transmission. So when I put the transmission together, I follow the instructions right out of the 4L80E ATSG manual. How many clutches to put in, where to put them, which way the lip seals go, etc., etc., etc. All of that stuff, that's how I do it, exactly how it's written in the book. Now there's only one thing I can think of that I could have done wrong, even though I think I did this correctly. I'm pretty sure I check and double check every time I put one of these together, but the 4L80E uses two roller clutches. It uses the overdrive roller clutch and the low roller clutch. Now, roller clutches, they use a barrel with a spring and that rides up a ramp. And when the races are spinning in one direction, the outer race usually, when the outer race is spinning in one direction, it pushes the barrel against the spring and keeps the clutch disengaged. When the outer race spins in the other direction, it rolls the barrel up the ramp until the friction and pressure of all those barrels wedging out locks the clutch. Now, the only other thing I can think of is if I put the overdrive roller clutch in backwards. The overdrive roller clutch needs to be holding in reverse for it to work. It also needs to be holding in first, second, third gear in order for it to work, for them to work. The only gear that the overdrive roller clutch is not holding is fourth gear, overdrive gear. That I must have put that overdrive roller clutch together backwards, which means the transmission needs to come back out again. I need to take the transmission apart again. I need to get to that overdrive roller clutch and flip it over. But there's nothing else I can do with the transmission in the truck. And there's nothing else I can do without taking the transmission fully apart. So that's what I'm going to have to do. All right, team. Well, it's the next day again. And I've got this transmission back out of the truck, back on the bench, taken apart again. And what I suspected is not working correctly, the overdrive roller clutch. So the overdrive roller clutch, this is it right here, right? And it has the little barrels, and the inner race has little ramps. So when you install this, the springs are pushing the little barrels up the ramps. And that creates just enough drag that when the outer race rotates in that direction, it creates pressure that locks this race against this one. It essentially makes it unable to turn. So when I put mine together here, it should freewheel in this direction, and it should lock in the other direction, like it is. See, if I turn it clockwise, it locks. Counterclockwise free, clockwise it locks. Now, what I'm not sure about is this roller clutch, as I took it apart, was rotated like so. When I put the outer race on it now, if I can get it back on there, see, now it will freewheel in this direction. Both directions. So what needs to happen is this roller clutch needs to be pushed all the way back like it is. And then you need to assemble it by rotating it counterclockwise. Then it works in clockwise. I think what happened here is I assembled it by rotating the outer race clockwise, which pushed one or two of the barrels over the edge of the ramp. And if you have any single barrel over that edge, the clutch will not work. The clearances are so tight in there that every single barrel has to be where it's supposed to be. So that was our problem. That's why we didn't have any movement in any of the gears we could manually command because they all rely on this roller clutch holding. And if that roller clutch won't hold, reverse, first gear, second gear, and third gear will not work. It's kind of crazy that so much of the transmission depends on that tiny little roller clutch. But it also goes to show you've got to follow the instructions and be careful when you're putting these things together. A small little misassembly, and it wasn't even put together, pieces in the wrong place. The assembly procedure was not done correctly, and that resulted in this problem. So I'm going to put it all back together. I've got a couple hours left today, so I'm going to put it all back together and see if maybe I can't get this thing moving. Man, I've said that a lot over the last couple weeks, but oh, geez, I hope this is it. All right, team, I've got this thing all back together again. I've got it. At least I have fluid in the pan. I'm gonna need to top it off. I know that. I got it reassembled correctly, the correct procedure, so that roller clutch should do what it's supposed to do now. There's nothing left to do but to try this thing again. Good golly, cross your fingers for me. I'm getting tired of taking this transmission in and out of this truck. Finally! Holy moly. Well, a good lesson learned for me. Correct assembly matters. Getting all the parts in place where they belong. But method of assembly also matters. I'm 99% sure that the problem this whole time was probably that when I assembled that overdrive roller clutch, I twisted the outer race clockwise, which allowed the barrels to fall over the edge of the ramp into the valley. And that made that overdrive roller clutch ineffective. It would not work. It would not lock like it's supposed to for any of our gears. So good to know, and hopefully this will save you from making the same mistake. That overdrive roller clutch must be seated, rotating the outer race counterclockwise in the 4L80E. So at least we finally got it. I can move this thing out of the way. I can clean up my my bay here, as I call it, and get to work swapping the drivetrain and the ass blazer. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed seeing me struggle and just really doubt myself. And until the next video, take care.